All right. How's it going, everyone? Uh, Thank you to everyone tuning in to this webinar, the first webinar about this innovative new platform called Giya. I'm excited. I'm joined today by the three co-founders in no particular order: Don Dunlap, Kevin Kinker, and Jamal Johnson. As a quick intro here, can the three of you introduce yourselves and give just a little backgrounder on your experience and what kind of led you up to the creation of Giya? Again, I'll just go in order of the screen here. Kevin, if you want to start us off.
Sure, no pressure, right? So I have, my name's Kevin Kinker. I've made a career out of recruiting over the past 22 years, whether that be on the agency side, in-house, and most recently, really focusing on hiring for tech startups. I came to Giya via actually Dawn. Dawn and I worked previously. She had the idea and she told me about this platform that's going to help people, and I love helping people find jobs in their career. So I told her I was all in if she'd have me, and that's how I found my way to Giya.
Awesome, Don. If you want to dovetail off Kevin's intro.
Sure. It sounds like that was a marriage proposal. I mean, I guess that's not too far off with co-founders. So I come, as Kevin mentioned, come from the other side of the coin, if you will, from HR. And I've been doing that for about 20 plus years or so at this point in time. Kind of had a mix both of in-house and had my own consulting business. And through the consulting business and through that lens was starting to see, having the same conversations over and over again, and really saw an opportunity for how we might be able to help some folks. So that's when I kind of had the germ of an idea.
The epiphany, right?
Yes. Shower moment.
And Jamal, please.
Hey, Jamal Johnson, and my background is a bit more varied than my partners. I think the best way to put it is that I try really hard to help people do hard things, and so that has meant coaching, owning a computer graphics studio, working in startups. Helping people become championship fighters. Essentially, if there's a hard thing that someone needs help figuring out the basics for, I'm here to do what I can to make sure that happens.
Very cool. It sounds like we've got a pretty varied group of co-founders here. Some HR focus, some recruiting focus. Jamal, sounds like you've done quite a few things, including coaching. So I think a powerful trio here to launch this awesome new platform. So appreciate everyone sharing. Jumping right in, when this platform came to my attention, one of the things that immediately stuck out to me was just the name. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a story behind this name, right? Don, perhaps you can shed some light on the Giya name and as you mentioned, the shower thoughts, the genesis of the platform and maybe how the name informs that mission.
Yeah, absolutely. So Giya means guide, and that is kind of the core of the platform, is that it's meant to help guide you through your career. Not say at each decision point, but just along the way. And what potential offshoots you might be able to take, or paths, if you will, that you might be able to explore. So as you were referencing these shower thoughts, which are kind of I guess at this point a joke to us, or not really a joke. I mean, they really mean these, this were real shower thoughts. But as I mentioned earlier, I was continuing to have these same conversations over and over again into companies that I would go in and help out in the consulting world. And the more I thought about, how I was having these conversations, like I've mentioned before, it was the same conversation. How do I get a promotion? How do I get a raise? And really, these things are fairly, they follow the same structure. And maybe because I'm a consultant, I had a little bit more transparency with some of these employees, or a little bit more opportunity. So I would guide them through kind of how you might have that conversation with your manager, and what would be the path that you might want to take. And then I would take them through what we would do on the HR side. So, you know, this is what happens when your manager comes to us and says that you want a promotion, and what our journey would be. And when we may or may not arrive at that mutual decision that this is a good opportunity, or you might need some more work. And so, you know, how do I kind of like automate this conversation, if you will? And so first I was kind of like, I could do a chat bot, something along those lines. And then I had the shower thought, that we do not have a private space, that's all our own, to plan our careers. We don't have a place where we can celebrate past wins or look back and see how far we've come. We don't have a place where we can, you know, try different trajectories and kind of map them out and see where they might bring us. So that is the genesis, if you will, of Giya. A place for you to plan and strategize how you move through your career.
So in one sense, it's a community as one function of the platform.
Yes, so the community is something that we have invested very early on, because we would like, you know, as we all know, right, when we look for help in our lives, we go to our community, right? Some of us may have experience in HR or recruiting or coaches. Some of us may, you know, some of our community may be in the profession that, you know, that we're in. And so we're looking for their advice. And so, you know, the idea was to expand out that community and put kind of the same like-minded folks together. So your view, if you will, on how you might solve the problem or make the decision is much broader and much more expansive than your immediate network could be.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to return. We'll return to the idea of the audience, you know, the intended audience for Giya for sure. But let's hear maybe from Jamal and Kevin. You know, it sounds like, and I don't want to put words in anyone's mouths here. Maybe it was Don's initial idea, but obviously, you know, you are all three co-founders. Jamal, how did this idea strike you, and what made you want to jump in and be a part of Giya? You know, per Don's kind of broad brushstrokes around what the platform is.
I think the first thing is just that I love the idea. I love the idea of people having a place of their own where they could get the support they don't normally get. And the next thing that occurred to me was that if I love the idea and I was committed to it, the question became, how do I best contribute? What can I offer that someone who isn't a Silicon Valley native might be able to? And what it really, and so for me specifically, it was, I could always be a great thought partner to Don and to Kevin, and that I can give them sort of an outsider perspective on what people who might be underserved or who maybe were well served but just had a different way of thinking might want from the community. The second thing I thought I could offer was I've got a background with some design. I've also got a background, again, as I said, in computer graphics and that kind of thing. So I know a little bit about how to structure visual knowledge. So I thought a lot about what it might be like for people to be able to look at all of these different things that they were thinking about. The difference between it being a thought that was in your head or a thing that you discuss with friends is that ability to actually write it down and track it and plot it in a way that makes sense for you. So I hope to, and I thought that I could really contribute by helping make a difference there.
Is it safe to assume that you're the product guy out of the three co-founders here?
So far, we're hoping to hire. If you're product people out there, please come in and do a better job than I do. But I certainly am an advocate for for our team, and I'm an advocate for our users. And so I'm hoping that I can guide product with hard work on my end and passion for people being able to actually have the basics they need to use this product very well. But again, please, someone come and save me.
That's awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing, you know, how this product changes over time, right? No product is static. So I know this is still fairly young. but I know I'm excited from everything we've talked about and from what I've seen so far. Last but not least, Kevin, what was your intersection with Jamal and Don, around building this platform?
Sure, probably not much of a surprise, but it was really the getting the job aspect. When people are looking to get a new job, oftentimes they're reaching out to me regarding a host of things. It could be their resume, it could be how to interview, it could be understanding the different aspects of the interview they went through, the questions that were asked. Perhaps it's, how do I do the offer process? And of course, I'm always there for them. I have a lot of information around this from experience, and I like to be helpful. But this platform seemed to me to be an opportunity to do that at scale. There's only one Kevin Kinker out there that's going to be able to help them. But if I could take the advice that I have and I could multiply it by thousands at the same time, I thought that would be really helpful to people, and to maybe shape an understanding of that aspect of the person's journey of finding a new job, and giving them more context around what they need to know and where they're at in their career.
That's awesome. I mean, from Don, from an HR perspective, Jamal, what I got from you is really coaching. Coaching people through difficult situations and different challenges that might be what the next step in their career is. And then Kevin, of course, from more of a, call it recruiting standpoint, but really just helping people at scale around their own personal career and job choices. I'm understanding a bit more about the why behind Giya. Don, perhaps you can go into a little bit more of the tactical, the execution, the how. How is Giya going to help folks map out their career trajectory and hopefully make better decisions around it?
Yeah, that is a good question. So we've got many ideas. Well, first and foremost, what we have launched so far on the website is what we call the Giya Go Bag, and that is essentially a checklist for you to launch your own either consulting business or any sort of business. That if you are ready to become an independent worker and you want to, kind of launch your own company, we will get you through it with the Go Bag in essentially a week. We put it into 5 days. You can spread out those 5 days however you like. Since almost all of us here have launched our own businesses, we kind of realized that, we kind of, scrapped together all the information we needed to do that. So we might as well put that in a package, because we want to support all types of work, not just what we think of as full-time W-2 waged employee type work. So you can get that at the website. And then as we kind of look towards building more of our MVP, if you will, we are looking to, as Jamal kind of said, our bread and butter will be visualization. I mean, it's very difficult to visualize your career. When you think of your career, how do you think of it? What images come to mind? And it's very difficult. It's very difficult to conceptualize what this one thing that we call a career is. So how do we take all of the elements that go into it and then help you visualize that? So that is kind of the idea within the platform, in that it will take all of these different aspects that we know of. I kind of always joke that in HR, we know where you're at in your career based on your level. We kind of, usually know, at least within the company, where your skills gap are to make the next level. We know exactly what you should be paid at in market, and we don't really share all of that. So we would like to start sharing that stuff with people, so you can make your own informed decision. So if there is a skills gap, can we link you up with a learning partner? We can help you negotiate, right? Your next pay. We can help you strategize with a manager that might be difficult, right? Because really, if you're looking for a promotion and you're not getting along with your manager, it's just not going to happen. I hate to break it to some folks, but that's just really the reality. So that is your key relationship within any sort of company or employment that you might have. So taking you down, I guess you could say that, since we are leaning so heavily on visualization, and you can see the little path behind me is ever since we kind of started talking about this idea, on the dashboard, what I've visualized is a path with some sort of, like trail markers, if you will. And those trail markers may be like, that next class that you need to take. Or the next one-on-one that you have with your manager. So we'll give you little trail markers or signposts along the way to keep you running. So that's kind of what the platform, what we will bring to the platform.
Yeah, I remember our first conversation. That's what immediately came to my head was, I love to hike in the hills around the Bay Area, and that's the visual I got was like, again, a trailhead, a masthead, that's going to guide you. Go, well, I don't want to go this way. I need to go this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great visualization for me, and hopefully for our audience as well. Kevin, anything you want to add to again, how in your head, again, knowing, I'm sure we come back and talk in a year, and maybe the platform looks totally different, but where it's at now, how it functions, taking the bigger mission into account here.
Yeah, I think the couple things I would add to that are things around actually some surveys that we put together. We talked before that it'd be nice to understand where people are at and use our knowledge and our research to be able to score, kind of how a certain path or a certain idea in their career would map against their ambitions. Again, something that came out of Dawn, not necessarily shower thoughts. I would call it a Sunday thought. She came to our meeting on Monday and she's like, hey, I jumped on this idea yesterday. Jamal, Kevin, can you just take this survey real fast and go through it? And it was awesome, and it had, it gave you different ideas in terms of getting a promotion and the different aspects going into it, how you interacted. And then at the end, it would give you an output of where you're at. And the idea was that we could use that and things like that to get the user engaged and to get them thinking and to let them, and kind of as Dawn was indicating when she was speaking of, like, some of it was like, hey, this, we have to break some bad news to you that this is where you're at. But we have experience to help you through it. And so I think those are some of the things that we started to do and will continue to do as well to help our community.
And obviously it's not just the three of you being involved offering this advice and mentorship, but also the whole part of this is building a community too, of other folks that can lift each other up, back them up, just come for advice. Am I thinking about this the right way, whatever it might be. Jamal, again, perhaps the most important opinion of all in terms of the how Giya is going to achieve this. From a product perspective, you talked a lot about data visualization, but how are you building Giya to tackle this super important, critical function? Helping people launch their career, maybe not even launch, but pivot and continue, and again, make the best choices they possibly can.
I think three things are really important about any process like this. One, that it be iterative, that we continually learn from the people who use our product and from the people in our community, that we allow ourselves to be informed by them. The second thing, from a purely visual standpoint, is choice, and it's something that actually Dawn leads on a lot. Is that different people see things differently, and so a lot of what we hope to create is a palette. We want a bit of a choose your own adventure when it comes to how people visualize things, because some people might, I'm heavy on tree. I always want Giya's metaphor to be a tree, and everybody sort of pretends that I have a good idea and they let me run with it. But but I would say that Dawn differently might see it as bubbles, and Kevin might see it as a highway. But and I don't think it matters much. I think what's true here is that if the process is iterative for us, it's probably also iterative for our users. And if we offer them choice in how they can visualize things, or maybe how they visualize different things, because one-on-ones might look different to them than their career trajectory. And so as long as we in the product again, allows us to be iterative and offer a choice. The last thing that we can do, and I think I wouldn't say this is the most important, but this is the final product, is to then make it easy, to then make sure there's a clear hierarchy, both in the product itself, but also in the community, where things are where it's very clear what section you need to go to get the information. So if we can do those three things, I think we can help anyone with, at the very least, the next move in their career. And we're hoping that we can actually lock them in for the rest of their career, because we think that this process can continue to offer value there. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And for me, I know it's incredibly difficult to create products that are quote unquote easy to use, right? It's difficult to create a complex interface that's doing a lot of complex stuff, but make it actually user-friendly on the UI, the UX, the interface. So really look forward to seeing where you take Giya here in the near future.
Well, what I'll say to that, it's the most difficult thing possible. What the arrow we have in our quiver is that people will tell you, and most of these problems have been solved already.
Mm-hmm.
And so if your mission becomes to serve people and not to brand everything, it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I did want to go back to something Dawn said earlier, or she made mention of users. We've talked about folks that are making a career transition, maybe they're stuck. Dawn said, folks launching their own business. Those are kind of three distinct user profiles. But Dawn, maybe you can let us into your thinking around what's a Giya user look like, right? Who should be looking to join the platform, and who's going to get the most out of it, really? Who's this built for?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this could be a couple of people segments, if you will, as you said, kind of the consulting independent worker arm, from a more traditional employment model. I guess this doesn't, kind of counts for both, as we're kind of, in a position to serve folks that have been working for about 5-ish years, right? So they're not just starting yet. You do need to get going a little bit, and get some gas in the tank, I guess you could say. And those folks who are, probably not close to retirement, right? Because we're looking to spend some time with you guys, and we're looking to help you, guide you making those decisions. And I think we all know, in those last few years of your career before you get to set off into your lovely retirement, you're not going to be wanting to make a bunch of changes. We will be pretty focused on white collar at first, and probably tech, just because do what you know, and that's what we know. So we'll be starting there, but we would love to continue to expand out and serve other markets as we build. Jamal has a production background. Before I went into HR, I was a stage manager in theater, so we understand entertainment fairly well. There's a whole other space out there that we would love to continue to build to serve. So.
Very cool. It sounds like this is applicable to, really most of the workforce. Maybe entry level, might not be the preferred, most optimal user, and as you said, somebody close to retirement. That's a pretty big area of the workforce there that it sounds like Giya is going to be able to serve and help. Kevin, from a user perspective, this idea is so fresh and so new. When you think about the optimal Giya user, what does that look like for you?
Well, I think it's somebody that has an openness to wanting to have guidance in their career. And I say it that way because, and Don was touching on this a little bit, if you want the content, or maybe Jamal said, the content's out there to help you in your career. But you're still contacting one of the three of us to understand where to go. So you're not necessarily looking to solely manage your career. but rather to take all these different aspects, and maybe there's some management, but you want to guide. You want someone to bring you along. You're willing to listen and to follow through with the steps that we outline based upon the interaction that we've had. No, we're not going to tell you it's one size fits all for everyone, but rather understanding you uniquely and in the path that you want to walk. And then we tell you, okay, this is what you need to know, and this is what's going to get you along the line. And again, what Don said in terms of like white collar and tech, we have a lot of experience in that area. We also know a lot of people that can give us valuable insights. And as we've developed things, we've actually pooled around, and it's helped us get ready for that user.
Yeah, the term, guide keeps coming up, and obviously that's what Giya was named after. So I think you truly did. The community is aptly named. The platform is aptly named for sure. Jamal, from your perspective, on users, who do you envision really getting the most out of Giya?
Well, I think, again, remember that I'm always trying to be iterative, right? So I'm going, who can we help the most today with what we have? And what we have today is a community, and the circumstances of today are the fact that we're in an economic downturn, and we know that that's already begun, and there's going to be a ton of aggregation in a lot of the big industries, especially if we look at tech, and if we look at things like law, and if we look at biotech and those kinds of industries that we know we can serve immediately. So I would say, if someone is looking to join a community that they actually want to be of service to, and they're starting to get concerned about how to navigate their career in the new normal, then we would like to serve you today. And what I would also like to point out about that is, it does not matter if you're freelancing, a contract employee, or W-2 employee. I think what's really important to understand is that your job, your series of jobs over any 5 to 20-year span is your career.
Yeah.
We are here for careers. And so who I want to serve today is someone who is looking to contribute to the community, looking to help others as we help them. If they're white collar, if they're in some of these fields that we know a lot about as we learn more about others, and if they understand that whatever they're doing is part of their career, and they want help in getting a vision for it, and that's who I want to serve today.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You actually touched on one of the questions I wanted to get to, but I think it's a good segue, and that is, in my head, I would think, gosh, the world has drastically changed, right, since the beginning of the year. And certainly, the three of you have been working on this platform pre-COVID, pre-pandemic. I'd imagine this is even more relevant now, right? As you mentioned, the new normal, distributed teams, distributed workforce, work from home, remote first, remote friendly. Talk a little bit about how you feel Giya is going to be even more impactful. Who knows what 2021 brings, but right now, Don, in looking at it through the lens of, we're in the middle of an economic downturn, we're in the middle of COVID. How do you see Giya helping folks, that are struggling with all of that in relation to their career?
Yeah, well, what I'll say is that we had really, at first, for the first 2 years,
in the pantheon of building companies, 2 years is a microcosm, I think.
Is that we were really focused on this W-2 employee, right? And yet, ignoring the obvious that was in front of us, and that all three of us are independent workers. So, so then, but knowing that we still wanted to serve a community, that had the same needs as us. And as we know, as we will say over and over again, we believe that, there's not much difference between these two. They're just who pays your bills,
Yep.
But, once COVID hit, we were really looking for a way to serve people who, especially those who had lost their jobs. And so we were brainstorming ideas, right? Do we make some connections with some temp agencies we know? But at this point, it was April. Nobody was hiring, right? Nada. And so then we realized that, had this, this was a trail thought. This was this was not a shower thought. Uh, that when hiring picks up again en masse, companies will probably be more comfortable hiring contractors and freelancers first before they hire full-time employees. So why not give people the tools ASAP to be set up to, get themselves ready to grab those opportunities. And, again, one of those moments where it was like, how did we ignore this one or miss this one, since all three of us do this? And let's go from there. So essentially COVID, we switched our focus, and which I think has just allowed us to really expand our thinking and looking at, like I said, like what we were kind of initially thinking of, independent workers and W-2 wage employees as these two separate paths, if you will. And as COVID has continued to move on and, extend, we realize that this is just going to continue to get blurred more and more and more. And people are going to go back and forth probably between these two types of arrangements. So that, and as we look at, what does flexible mean? What does a relationship with an employer mean? I think will continue to change. We think will continue to change over the next 5 to 10 years.
I couldn't agree more. And I think back to conversations Kevin and I had at the beginning of this year before, right as the pandemic hit. Yeah, I totally agree. Time will certainly tell. I would back you up on that hypothesis, if you will. And one thing that just struck me is the amount of data that you're going to be able to derive also from this community, right? I mean, that could be a really interesting to look at after you start building some data, in 2 or 3 or 5 years, this major pivot that's happening in our work culture, right? Of full-time, 1099 mixture of the two, right? For so many people. So I think the data component is going to be really interesting when you really start to build this community. You're going to be able to derive some data. I would think that no one else has looked at, right? Or it doesn't exist by virtue of the community. So I'm excited to see that for sure.
Yeah, one thing I will just pop in real quick is that we feel very strongly about a duty of care to our community. And so you're right, there is going to be a lot of personal information and sensitive information that hopefully folks will trust us with. And I hope that, we take that commitment very seriously. So I just wanted to put that in there before we move on.
Also paramount in this digital world we live in, right? Security and personal information and all that. Jamal, you wanted to chime in there.
I did. I just wanted to mention that we see that also as one of the key features of Giya is that not only will we have data in the aggregate to talk about to sort of address some of these issues that employees face, but also you, the user, will have access to your own data, and you can look over time at what has happened, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and it won't be notional. Currently, if I ask you how you feel about your career, it will be about how the last week went or how you feel your paychecks look. And with Giya, you're given this opportunity to actually look over time at many different valences of your career and really have a holistic conversation with yourself and others about that.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's odd. I mean, and I think that the shower moment backs it up. It's like, you figured this kind of would have existed before now, right? Like this sort of an approach to thinking about your career. But that kind of leads me into my next question. And that is, what makes Giya different than maybe a traditional coaching platform or a coaching community or even a support community? Kevin, perhaps you can kind of tackle that question, because I know a lot of those things exist, but again, speaking to what Jamal just said, it hasn't really existed like this.
No, and I think our approach, there's a few things that are unique. First of all, what I kind of said last time. We're not in the business of, career self-management for people. There'll be a certain aspect of it, but that's not why we started. Two, I think that the three of us collectively understand the emotional aspect of this and how we want to feed into that. Independent work is probably a good one that when we started going through it, we understood there's a fear around independent work. And we, like, even when you look at the go bag does something to alleviate that fear about starting your own business by breaking it into little, very actionable items that have resources, that have guides, that have steps, so that you can get to where you're going. And we understood that a lot of people maybe would never take that first step because they don't know which way to go. And I've had dozens of these conversations. And the great thing is, in the last 2-3 months, as I talk to them, I say, look up Giya.io, register for your go bag. You're going to have to give us your email address. That's how much it's going to cost. And this will get you going. And I'm proud to say there are 2 or 3 people that launched their businesses looking at the go bag, either using every aspect of it or utilizing some aspects they didn't know beforehand. But when they saw it, they felt like, hey, we could get there. I think the other thing too, and over time, and I kind of mentioned this before, is really looking at the evaluation aspect of it and understanding where somebody's at, and then using that kind of evaluation to give the customized next steps. So again, focus on guidance, understanding the emotion, and then customizing it to the person. I don't think that's out there, and if it was, I think all of us probably would have used it by now.
Yeah, I totally agree. Don, from your perspective, Giya, how does it differ from again, some of these other support mechanisms or coaches, that sort of thing?
Yeah, for me, it's funny that we all have our different views on this, which is great. For me, it's taking, basically handing the tool bag that I have over to the regular employee. We'll teach you how to use it, but it's a very robust tool bag. um, that plus the visualization. I don't know about you all, but I can't stress this enough, but I'm a very visual thinker and learner. And so, having something that I can look at and start processing around is instrumental for me when I'm long-term planning. I even, maybe giving away my age over here, but, writing notes helps me remember things, right? Because you're looking at it. You're not just trying to, typing doesn't do the same. I don't know. I'm sure there's some research behind this. But that, that's how my brain does things and allows me to ingest information so I can make decisions based on it. And so as far as I know, again, nothing out there that, that really says also what I'll add to this, sorry to back this up a little bit, but we never celebrate our past success, our past wins. We're so focused on the now, and having the ability to remind yourself where you've come from and have some pride in yourself before you start, yearning for the next thing or planning for the next thing, kind of helps lift your self-esteem and gets you a little bit more well-positioned for making those next steps.
Jamal, anything you want to add to kind of Kevin and Don's vision around this platform and differentiating it from what else kind of exists out there in the ether?
Yeah, it's been hard because I just think that there are many things, but I think that the 2 things that really that I keep on thinking about again and again and again are our business model is different, quite frankly. A lot of other platforms out there are interested in B2B. They're interested in helping employers manage employees. And I think that we're just directly interested in giving employees a space that is theirs, that each individual of them can be seen as an individual and actually can own some real estate, some digital real estate that is theirs, that has their past and their future. And and another thing that I keep on thinking about is the fact that I grew up pretty poor and pretty resource poor, and not having access to good information, not having a space that I could sort of go and get good knowledge was I think, if I can think of how I've been held back in my career and in my life, it's really been about those sort of things. And and our business model is going to be partnerships. Our business model is going to be giving people who already have their own their own space where they can figure out what they need, direct access to the best of what they can actually, the best help in getting the thing that they need. And so I just don't see that out there, and I just think that it's such an important view to take on how you help people. If you say helping people, then give them what they need in a way that they need it. And I think the Giya does that better than anybody I've seen.
You touch on a couple really interesting things here, and again, you're getting in front of a couple of questions I was going to ask anyway. But as far as access to the platform, is this free? You know, is there barriers to entry? Is it a subscription based? You know, can you, Don, maybe you can dive into how you know, the actual, you know, engagement mechanism works, right? Is it free? How, you know, what I'm sure if you're charging, you know, over the course of the business, you know, it'll probably change. But what does that look like today for potential folks joining the community, customers, I guess, if you will?
Yeah, it's funny to think of them as customers.
I know it's probably a poor word to use, but I think you get the thrust of the question.
Yeah. Yeah, it's free. Right now it's 100% free. We do have on offer some coaching slots on the website with one of the three of us. And that's the only thing that would potentially cost any sort of money. But otherwise, access to the Go Bag and access to the community are in our blog are 100% free.
That's awesome. So there's really no reason why everyone shouldn't join and be a part of the community and take advantage of what you folks have built.
Exactly. And if you like the cut of our jib, you can book a consulting or coaching session.
And as far as you know, just a couple more questions here. What do you hope a user from Giya is ultimately going to take from the platform after becoming a member of the community? You know, kind of mapping, you know, putting some of their own data in, seeing their own personal data, right? Getting a visual for it. But ultimately, what do they do with that? What do you hope the end result is from, I joined Giya and I did this amazing thing? You know, Kevin, maybe you can jump in and give us a little thinking around your perspective there.
Yeah, I think understanding that they're not alone is going to be the biggest thing. Is that you have that guide that, you know, when you go into career management, which is often, you know, it leads you all over the place with all the sorts of different opinions, that you have a place you can go, you can access the information, you can get advice, you can get measured data around responses for the direction you should go in. And this isn't just, you know, like my aspect obviously comes a lot from finding a job, but throughout your job and understanding there are every month there's something that you could be reaching out to do. You know, the HR, the recruiting, or just the world clock really results in different things and how you can approach those. And there's an opportunity everywhere. And we intend on addressing every area and be able to give you guidance in terms of, you know, how to navigate that or just get better if that's what you want to do.
Jamal, from your point of view here, I jump on Giya. I ultimately, what do I take away from the platform, right?
Mm-hmm. My conviction is that problems and unresolved issues soak up bandwidth, and those bandwidth, and that usually is bandwidth that you might use for creativity, good feeling, or or something positive and interpersonal. My hope from people joining the community in general, and from the app and the tools in the app specifically, are that they, like, I hope to get a note from someone that says, I didn't know that I could feel so light. I didn't know that that thing was bothering me, or that thing was taking up my time, or that I could have those many hours back. So my hope is that someone from the community and just from using Giya in general can get something like that.
It's awesome. And speaking to that, there's already a couple testimonials on the site of folks that have gotten a lot from the platform already. Is there one specific success case, if you will, already in the, you know, the young platforms, you know, start here, that you can point to that you've already seen? And again, certainly, you know, pushing the audience to check out Giya.io. They can see a couple of these testimonials themselves. So maybe you can shed a little bit more light on it, Don, perhaps. Maybe not just these testimonials, but from successes you've already seen in, you know, in the early days of Giya here.
Yeah, you know, I've got a couple of stories, and this is more kind of relates to our coaching, and I think this is the, you know, kind of, you know, why we feel like there's a need out there, and we know that this works. You know, and it, for me, it usually centers around, you know, my women friends and my female network, and making, you know, dealing with either a difficult boss or making a change. And one particular story, somebody had left their company for personal reasons, decided to take a year off. They wanted to go back into the job market after that year. You know, but they had a certain set of requirements, right? Because we are not just our careers, we were a whole families, and there was, you know, there were personal decisions that needed to be made. And they were about to take a role that could potentially accommodate those things, but they would have gone down about 20 to 25% in their base salary. And we kind of talked through it, and you know, what I said to her was, you know, there'll be other companies out there that can accommodate what you require. But you kind of have to think about your lifetime value of your salary. So if you take this 25% hit now, I'm going to tell you that it's going to take another 5-10 years to get back to where you were a year ago. So if you can hold out a little bit longer, keep interviewing, and find a company that will work with you, but don't go down in your salary. You know, that would be the way to do it. So this person did hold out a little bit longer. I think it was another month or two. And not only did they, you know, end up with a more senior title, they actually went up in compensation by about another 10-15%.
I'd say that's a win.
Yeah.
And of course, we all know, you know, we're all professionals. We've been in our careers for a while. It's not all about comp, but certainly a lot of it is about comp. So I'd imagine that's probably a pretty good. I'm sure there's a lot of conversation about that, right, in the community, also in the one-on-one coaching as well. So that's great that folks can pinpoint that as one facet of where you're trying to help, right, and that is comp.
Yeah, I mean, she had a whole list of, family factors. So it really was a holistic conversation and experience. But as we know, there are certain thresholds in comp. And once you meet one and you go under it, it's so hard to get back over that threshold. So this particular opportunity was going to be below that threshold, if you will. So.
Any other kind of success cases? You know, Jamal, I imagine the three of you are having different conversations on the platform. Perhaps there's a use case, or I should say success case that you'd like to showcase.
No, I can think of several. And I sort of, as much as I'd love to toot my own horn, I want to talk about Dawn. I've had Dawn as a go-to HR person in my circle before Giya, and I can tell you since Giya, I've passed her on. I've passed at least two friends on to me. One who was his company was aggressively trying to move him out for reasons that he thought were specious, and he's been able to fight it and get a settlement based in part on Don's advice. And I can also say that I have another friend who is having huge disagreements with his boss, and he actually was able to find some peace and stay in his role because he was ready to leave and actually leave the country because he wasn't from the U.S. And again, that was through Don's advice. So I just want to speak to I want to quickly just say like how proud I am to have my partners. I'm really pleased with the expertise of both of them. And then I'll say for me, I think again, it does come back to emotional stuff, right? Because I'm here to serve people a little bit more than I'm here to serve careers. And so I would say I can think of two people. I can think one person who had been out of work for over a year and a half, um, and um, and I gave her I think two coaching sessions, and she went from not being confident about her skills to having three recruiting companies that were that are in steady contact with her, and she's also translated her her profile, sort of her, her cover letter into Spanish because she's now looking for work in Madrid. So for me, I would say if the conversation isn't about the outcome, if the conversation is about your internal state and your feeling of confidence, I count that as a huge win. That we went from a person who felt like they couldn't get anything happening to actually like having people looking for them because what she had to offer was so strong, and then feeling like she could actually take this abroad in a non-native language. So that felt really good to me. And I'm currently working with someone now who I also feel really good about. In that we again are helping her change careers. So I think the other thing that's true about this stuff, about the work of careers, is that you don't have to stay in one place and you don't have to stay with one job. Is that again, your career is not your job. Your career is a succession of things that you do that all feed on each other. So again, so I'm able, so this most recent person I'm speaking about was able to help her really make a firm decision to explore an enormous career change that she was afraid of. And so I count those both as huge personal wins. And I mean, I'll be excited to report good outcomes at the end.
That's awesome. You always seem to kind of take it back to the EQ space, which I think is really cool in your approach to this platform. And I love it. You say it's really not about helping careers; it's about helping people. So very cool. Kevin, for you again, knowing again that platform's fairly young here. Any immediate success cases you can point to in your experience, with the coaching and being a co-founder and a part of the platform?
Sure. I mean, this didn't necessarily make the platform per se, but certainly there was an individual, and this went to him starting a company, and I'd known him for a series of years, and he built his own community, and he moved on to another job, and he built even a bigger community, and he had this idea of starting. Actually, it was a staffing firm, and with a specific idea in terms of hiring in a specialized area. And he's just afraid to go do it. There was like, I mean, I don't know if afraid is so much, but he made good money where he was at. And then just taking that leap was difficult. However, going back to the emotional aspect of it, he wasn't happy in his job. He didn't particularly, get along with his boss real well. He had ideas that were limited by, reporting into somebody else that, had their ideas, and it was their business. So that was fair. And one piece at a time, kind of go bag-ish, which, this is where I added into the go bag. I explained each aspect of that and just kind of prepped him mentally to get through it. And man, he asked me so many questions. And eventually he said, I'm going to go do it, and he got everything up and going, while he was actually in his job. And then he just gave notice, and he went out on his own, and he was ready to go, and he's just killed it. He's been absolutely amazing. And I always knew he could. He just needed someone to help him along. And that's exactly what I think we could do for people at scale.
That's awesome. I love hearing all of those individual success cases and how different each one of yours is, really. So it's cool. I see this community, this platform really as really wide encompassing and being able to help people on a lot of different levels here, right? One more question, and maybe then, I know we're kind of getting close to time here. Love just final thoughts on the platform, maybe where you see it going in 2021. But one thing that came up to me, is there a use case for businesses utilizing the platform? And again, I'm sure, and you have underlined this point, Jamal, on being iterative. So who knows in the future, maybe, but from where we sit right now today, your perspective, yeah, is there, call it B2B or, just a use case for businesses utilizing Giya in one way or another?
I mean, we definitely see that could be a possibility, but we really want to serve, the people first,
Sure.
first and foremost. And if it doesn't serve our community and our users, then we won't, become B2B. So there has to be a strong case for how it would benefit them before we would consider it.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, in this, if Kevin, Jamal, you want to weigh in on that, it makes sense to me.
I could probably jump in really fast. I think, B2B will be something that maybe will be more useful when the company's ready to meet the individual where they're at, when they understand the path that we bring people through, and they say, you know what, we understand how this is helping the individual and helping them recognize where they're going. And we actually feel like that's the type of person we want in this role. And so they'll look at us as kind of the standard in which to assess people that they want for their organization. So in terms of like services B2B, I don't know about that, but I think a paradigm shift of thinking is something that I would hope Giya one day will do.
Jamal, yeah, any thoughts on your end?
Yeah, that's sort of, I mean, I really just like to reiterate. I think services B2B, I don't see it in our immediate future, but what I would say is, if businesses want to craft their product to 100% serve our community and really help people get to stage 2 in a way that's not extractory, then we'd love to have them come and partner with us to reach our community and help them do what they have to do.
Yeah, that's down the line for sure. I certainly look forward to seeing how that shapes up, right? In terms of, and this is kind of my last question here, where does 2021 take Giya? What do you see maybe as some milestones that you hope to hit in 2021, or maybe at the end of 2021 we want to be here, we want to have seen this done, from your perspective, the next 12 months here?
Yeah, no pressure. No.
Yeah, that's it.
We're gonna keep you to it.
we're gonna do this meeting again in 12 months, and we're gonna
So what did you get on your checklist?
Right.
Jamal, no. So in terms of, say, like product, we would like to have some sort of MVP of our dashboard built and launched. We want to continue to grow the community, and we may or may not go look for funding. It depends on how things are going. So
it's awesome, exciting.
So, no pressure, no big deal. Nothing's happening in 2021.
Just those couple things. Yeah, no big deal. Jamal, how about you? I'm interested, especially in your perspective, given the data piece, the product piece is just so paramount to your thinking and your vision and what you do on a day-to-day.
Yeah, I think that for me, the goals are to have by the end of like the first quarter, so let's say, so March, April, I'd like to have a really active 100-person community. By the end of the year, I'd like to have a really active 1,000-person community. I'd like to also create internal systems for capturing people's joys and pains and successes. Again, not even necessarily, I'd like to have it as early as possible that we can help people track what happened. outside of the app, actually just a way that we can actually literally like have capture it and then say it back to our communities that they understand. The next thing I'd like to have in 2021 is I'd like to have a partner to help me with this product vision. And that's all I can think of for now. I'm sure there's more, but that's all I have for now.
I'd say that that's a lot in and of itself, right? I mean, we all know it is a time consuming thing to build a community, right? And then provide value to said community. So Kevin, from your personal perspective here as co-founder number 3, where do you hope to take the platform in 2021, or what do you hope to see happen in 2021?
Content and partnerships. That's it right there. That we have a lot of ideas, we have a lot of thoughts, and adding that in, whether it's the content we write, whether it's partnerships that we develop with other people that have already done it, that we want to share with our community and with the world. And then just resources overall. You know, when looking at every aspect of HR and talent, flipping the script and finding what would help the individual overall. We're not, you know, some of these resources that, you know, people took so much time to build. We're not going to build them. We're just going to aggregate the best ones. We're going to give them access, our users access to what these tools are, and they can choose to use them, understanding the advantages overall. I'd like to have that all lined up so that, you know, Jamal's 10 to 100,000 person community at the end of next year is it has something to go with.
I think we added a couple zeros onto Jamal's end goal there, but
oh man,
this guy's
thrown.
I love it. I love it. Why not look push that goal even further, right? Like let's do this thing. So, you know, obviously, I think we mentioned it, but if folks want to learn more about Giya, it's Giya.io, as folks can see, hopefully in Don's background, Giya, there you go. And I know that there's some information about the 3 of you, what the community is about. There's a button to click the community, and thank you for making it clear in my head. This is free. This is a free resource for now, so folks should really be jumping on it now while it's free. Who knows? It might not be free in the future, right? And also access to the coaching function, the go bag function. I'm saying that correctly, right? The go bag. So definitely implore folks, jump into cyberspace, go check out Giya.io. And I'm sure, hopefully I'm not over speaking here for the 3 of you. Any one of the 3 co-founders here would love to field any questions, get a note about it, talk about it on a quick call or via email. But unless there's anything else that you want to, you know, relay to the audience here, I'm really excited to see where this goes. I know my next click is to join the community. I know I got an invite from Kevin to join, so I'm certainly going to do that. But anything else that we want to just kind of end cap this discussion about Giya about?
I feel like Kevin unmuted, so I thought he was about to talk.
Oh. No, you know, come join us.
Yeah.
You know, we're here to help, and it's what we enjoy. And so the more people that join and the more challenges we see, the more I think we can help.
Yeah, I think I'll end cap with an interesting little bit of research that we did. This was about 1.5 years ago when we were looking at user stories. And a good portion of the people that we surveyed said that they knew the next step in their career, but they still had anxiety about whether or not it was right. And so, you know, we're here to, you know, not only help those that don't know, but those that do know, but, you know, they just need some support. So, like, you're doing great, guys.
Keep it up.
Keep it up. Jamal can't. He's over this tweeting this.
I love it, Jamal. Unless there's anything else from you, I appreciate learning more about what the 3 of you are building. I'm excited to get involved and see where this goes. I know we're just at the beginning of the journey, so I do look forward to coming back in 12 months, Don, and us doing this again to hopefully celebrate on the success of you know, the last year. So and I'm sure there'll be more of these in between then and now. But I appreciate your time, and hopefully the audience learned a bit more about Giya, and hopefully this drives a lot of people to go check it out.
Well,
Thank you,
thank you
Chris.
so much, Chris. Really
course.
appreciate you facilitating the conversation.
Of course, everyone. Have a good evening all, and I know we'll be talking again soon.
Thanks,
Great.
Chris. Bye.
Bye.